this podcast, we cover sensitive subjects such as abuse, suicide, self-harm, depression, and other difficult topics. We are not medical professionals. We suffer from our own mental health issues. Our opinions should not be taken as medical advice. Dread the Stigma is for educational purposes and awareness for mental health only.
And here we go, another Sunday night, another Dread the Stigma episode, tearing down the walls of the stigma, mental health, one discussion.
One brick at a time.
One discussion at a time. It's sometimes all it takes. I hope everyone is well. How you been, Lydia? You're here, so.
I'm here. I did just wake up, so I apologize.
No, you did. You did look a little tired as we were talking before the show, but
can you hear my fan?
I cannot.
Oh, okay, good. Because I was sweating and I was like, oh my god, if I turn my fan on, like they're gonna hear. But I'm glad it's not picking up.
Nope, I don't hear it anyway.
Because we started to reach those fun days of summer.
Oh god,
I feel bad, and then we're up north. I can't even imagine the people like in the southern states. I can't.
Yeah, I'm in the Midwest, and it hasn't been too horrible here of late. A lot of humidity, which is the worst part for me. A lot of humidity. We are going to talk about we talked a lot in the past episodes about the effects of, let's say, trauma and what that does to your head cognitively. We're going to shed some light and focus on what mental illness, whether it be anxiety, depression, any of it really, the effects of that on your physical body, and the the diseases that can bring about. And I don't think that we really understand that a whole lot.
Well, are we really having symptoms, or are we just being psychosomatic?
I know that is something that comes up, because I have gone to the doctors with pains that sometimes are unbearable, and I am kind of looked at, they'll check me out and I don't see anything wrong, but they're there. My pain is real. So a lot of times we go to the doctors and they can't find anything that would be causing the pain, but we have them. And there is a lot of evidence that shows a lot of this could come from things like depression, anxiety, and a variety of other mental illnesses. And I promise you, before we get into this podcast, before we get into our topic, I promise you, we do suffer. We are for real, contrary to what some of these TikTok videos and some of these people that I guess are just wanting attention or whatnot. We do not. We want to bring awareness. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I could rant the entire show probably about it, but I'm not going to. I deal with some chronic pain. Do you deal with any like chronic pain? Let's say, for the sake of the conversation right now, because I'm sure we'll get into is it what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing? What came first? Depression creating the chronic pain creating the depression. Do you suffer from any chronic pain yourself that maybe you can associate outside the realm of mental illness?
So I have the head injury,
right,
which has exacerbated all of my mental health issues. And my original neurologist, because I kept telling her, I'm like, my head still hurts like every single day. Like it's been, at that point, it had been like, over 2 years. And she was like, well, I think a lot of it is, your depression and anxiety. And I'm like, I feel like there is more. I'm like, I can understand, like, oh, hey, JD, I can understand a little bit, but like when I have several days that I literally can't get out of bed because like my eyes have to be closed and I have like a cold cough, I'm like, I think that goes past mental illness. But I have been like thinking a lot lately that I'm like, oh, my head wasn't that bad today. And then within like 10 minutes, my headache has become worse. So I think that kind of goes with, back to the psychosomatic. Like the more when I actually thought about it is when I noticed the pain. So I think like when you're depressed, you notice how tired you feel. But when you're active and like, going through like manic, like if you're going through a manic phase, you don't feel all those things. So that's just my little rant for that one, I guess.
No, and just to touch on that, I think that makes a lot of sense. I know when I get depressed, I am like almost hypersensitive a lot of times, and I recognize things. Of course, my thoughts take over, which never go in a good direction when I'm in that state. But I am so like self-aware. It's like, man, why does this hurt? And then I'm more depressed, because I can't do the things that I could do, before. Well, fuck, you're 52. Of course, you're not going to be able to do the things that you could do. But no, that makes a lot of sense, though. That really does. So
also with like, sorry,
no, go ahead.
Do that. Just because I have like mentioned depression. I think also too with like depression, as far as like physical health, there's some people, you don't shower for like a week at a time.
Yeah.
You don't brush your teeth. You're not changing your clothes. Like you're not doing all these things that could take care of yourself, which ends up, obviously affecting you physically for several different reasons.
Sure.
But that's just because we had mentioned depression. So I just want to get that thought out before I forgot it.
Yeah. Let's I guess we can, run down. I got a few health symptoms in mind. I'm a visual learner, if you will, so I use a lot of YouTube. You are the note taker, so it's a good combination, a yin and yang. Let's just start off with probably the most common physical effect of having a mental illness. I guess specifically depression and anxiety, but you could also lump PTSD in too, because those things all kind of
so you do go together.
Yeah. Would be sleep disturbances. That seems to be the most common.
Now I'll play devil's advocate to this.
Okay.
Are you having trouble sleeping because you have a mental illness, or do you have a mental illness because you're having trouble sleeping?
And that's very interesting. And I could go one further. Is it due to, let's say, I have physical issues, pain-wise, that I have had tests done. I've seen x-rays. I know it's there. It is not any kind of psychosomatic. It is not due to my depression. I think my depression is exasperated from it. I got a bulging disc and herniated disc in my neck. And I know that plays a lot in my depression. So yeah, is it the chronic pain that's keeping me up, which again does not fare well, lack of sleep. and insomnia does not fare well for whatever existing mental health issues that you have. And that is a, a good question. You're not sleeping because you're depressed, or are you depressed because you're not sleeping?
Well, that's why, like, when you brought up this topic, I thought it would be interesting. I'm like, because you can look at it two separate ways.
Sure.
The mental health causing the physical illnesses, or the physical illnesses causing the mental health.
And,
So
I think that if you were already, diagnosed mental health wise with, let's say, like myself, MDD, major depressive disorder, for those who, are not familiar. And that could cause, a lot of, sleep disturbances. I don't get in those depressive moods as much because of the medication that I'm on. So that's played a big part. But
or even like when you go through a manic episode and you sleep like 3 hours a night, but you're still like fully functional, like entire days at a time, until, I know, like for me, it used to be like I'd go like 4 or 5 days with just like a couple hours sleep each night. And then it was like the 6th day I just like crashed. Like my body couldn't take it anymore. But during those days, like I was still feeling fine, even though I was running on empty. Like the mental illness was just like pushing me through.
Yeah. I honestly feel that way quite a bit throughout the week, because I'll have to go in, do a 10-hour shift. Granted, my job isn't as stressful now. I ride around on a little forklift most of the day, but I feel like I'm running on empty all the time. But I have this anxiety that if I don't do it, that I'm not going to be able to pay this. I'm not going to be able to pay that. So I have to do it, and it ends up not being very, very healthy.
No.
If you don't have anything to add on the sleep,
No.
what do you have? What have you found? What's another big one that, and I'm sure most people in the chat, we got a nice little turnout. Thank you, everybody who's joined us, by the way. I forgot where I was going with that. What do you have? Because most of you guys will probably be able to recognize a lot of these pains.
So when I approach this topic, and like reading about it, I'm like, oh, these all kind of like a lot of, it's like the major things you think of when you think of mental illness. Like we'll call them the top 3: depression, anxiety, PTSD. They all kind of have like you said, similar symptoms. So I was like, oh, well, what about like anorexia and bulimia? Because unlike those other things that we've talked about before, like, does the mental illness cause the pain, or the pain cause the mental illness? I feel like for eating disorders, like the mental illness does cause. There is no, like, it's not going backwards,
Right. No, exactly. Yeah, you're doing a lot of damage to your body by not getting the proper.
And some of it you can't recover from.
Yeah.
So some of those symptoms that people with anorexia have are the thinning of the bones, so osteoporosis. And especially like, say you're like your early 20s, which is like probably the medium range for like the ages of eating disorders. It's always like mid-teens to mid-20s ish. To start having feeble bones when you're only in your 20s, like, what is it going to be like when you're in your 60s?
Yeah, and that osteoporosis actually, has a natural progression versus what you've done previously. It's going to be 10 times worse.
It says mild anemia, muscle wasting away and weakness.
Yeah.
Brittle hair and nails, which is true. When you're not eating like correctly, your hair tends to fall out a lot more. It becomes a lot thinner when you start having like very like nutritious diet, like all the iron and all that stuff that you're supposed to have, and all the extra protein that will help your hair like thicken and look better.
Mhm.
Dry and yellowish skin, which I can see, like, I understand the dry. I don't know why it would be yellow, but it could just be like lack of certain nutrients that give the pigmentation to our skin that we have.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Certain nutrients or vitamins we're deficient in.
Low blood pressure, a slow breathing and pulse. A big one is damage to the structure and function of the heart.
Mm.
A drop in internal body temperatures causing a person to feel cold all the time, which, I mean, I understand that. Having lost a lot of weight over the last 2 years, like, I feel cold, and like I'm still, like, I'm nowhere near what somebody with anorexia would be
Right.
suffering from. And I'm like, I noticed since I lost that large amount of weight, like, I'm cold all the time. So like I could only imagine someone who is, down to like their minimum weight.
Yeah.
Infertility is a big one for like women. I know I've watched like dance movies in the past, because obviously ballet dancing, turns out a lot of the dancers do have these eating disorders.
Mhm.
And even like gymnasts, and they're like, oh my God, there was a Law and Order SVU episode, where the one gymnast, she was like, I'm not working hard enough, I got my period. So like anorexics and bulimia go through the same thing. They lose their period. Brain damage, and then also multiple organ failure. And as we learned a couple weeks ago, anorexia has actually the highest mortality rate for any
Yeah.
mental illness. So I feel like it has the highest effects on the body, since it's
No,
the highest mortality
absolutely.
rate.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that you named is just it's devastating.
Mm-hmm.
With other disorders, yes, you can, you have heart disease and things like that, but anorexia and having that, you know, disorder it attacks the whole body.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not just one specific, area like anxiety. Maybe you feel just like muscle tension, aches and muscle aches and things like that, and maybe it's just centered on that. Anorexia absolutely destroys the entire body. I mean, with severe consequences, if
Yes.
not, because you can't go back from that. A lot of that damage you can't turn back.
And then to go with anorexia, you have bulimia, which I think a lot of people kind of like interchange the two.
Mm-hmm.
Where for those who are not aware, anorexia is where you eat very, very minimal, compared to bulimia, where you eat and then make yourself throw up so that you don't
Purge, yeah,
ingest
right.
the extra calories. So because it is that difference, the effects on the human body are different as well. And so people who suffer from bulimia have chronically inflamed and sore throats,
Makes sense.
swollen saliva glands in the neck and jaw area, worn tooth enamel from throwing up, like that. You have so
That the
much
stomach
acidity.
acid,
Yep.
yeah.
Which acid reflux disorder, severe dehydration from purging, and then also an electrolyte imbalance, which can lead to a stroke or a heart attack.
Unreal. I mean, I'm not even sure where to go after anorexia and bulimia because you just destroy the body. And yes, it's amazing to me because, like I said, we've been focusing a lot on, I guess the effects on the cognitive, issue, and to hear how much, and it should seem probably pretty, self-evident that when you have anorexia or bulimia, you're not eating enough, or you're forcing yourself to, throw everything up.
Yeah.
It's probably, common sense of what the ramifications would be, but I think it really drives the point home when you hear it. I don't know. I think we all kind of, know, yeah, that's obviously that's damaging to the body. But when you hear all of the different things that come from that, it's heartbreaking. I mean, it's devastating what something like that can do.
It is. So what about you and your videos?
I watched a lot about the connectivity between mental illness and mental health and your physical health. And the one thing that when it comes to muscular pains and whatnot, I found it very interesting. A lot of the times PTSD was, talked about. And of course the stress and anxiety and at times depression that all comes with that. There was obviously a lot of talk about the fight or flight.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, there's a lot of talk about fight or flight, and maybe some of our viewers may know, or if not, you's about to learn something.
Take me to school, Otis. Take me to school.
We're going to school. Obviously, trauma is going to bring, and PTSD. I think we all know can put us in a almost constant state of fight or flight, depending on the trauma you endured, and that alone wreaks havoc on the body. To understand everything that happens when you sense fear. One of the videos I watched, the example was, you're walking through the woods and you see a bear. Now you realize I have a threat here. Okay. Your body, your pupils dilate, your heart rate goes up. Everything starts, getting ready to either run or fight this damn bear. Now, imagine having, PTSD, and that's probably going to be the main, disorder that I'm speaking about. Imagine having PTSD and living like that almost on a daily basis, or have it hit you. Sometimes it hits me and I'll feel physically sick, like very nauseated to where I can't eat. And as we talk, not to the point of anorexia, but I'll go an unhealthy amount of time without eating while doing physical work, which is normally not a good idea, and ingesting way too many monsters. So a lot of caffeine, not eating right, and all due to. And what I found really interesting is, of course, anxiety plays a big role in all of this too, because with the fight or flight, your body's ready, even though you don't really maybe perceive a threat. It may not be something that you can put your finger on as to, this is what's happening. And it's the same thing I found with anxiety. You may not feel like you're anxious or know why you would be anxious, but your body is reacting. Maybe you had a traumatic experience as a child, and that's a whole nother show.
Yeah,
right
like getting bit by a dog when you're really young, and now like when you see a dog, you start sweating, and your heart's racing.
Right. And even if it got to the point that you weren't really even scared of the dog, your body may still start to react that way, you know, and your body relives it. And one thing I found out too is your body stores this trauma. It's not just your mind, your body stores this. And, you know, so they've found that taking care of depression, and I don't know if you came across this in your research, but I found it very interesting that CBT, specifically CBT, and some antidepressants help with pain. So
Yep.
they're treating pain with what you would normally associate treating somebody with a traumatic experience, like the CBT would help, or treating somebody with, you know, an antidepressant, SSRI. You know, what did you think about that? I thought that was interesting. I'd never heard that before. I learned something in this.
I didn't know about that. I think I can't remember the name right now, but I know like I had talked to my psychologist about it before because I have really bad back pain.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking to me. Oh, gabapentin.
Yeah.
Is also used for chronic pain.
Yes. I was prescribed gabapentin, and it's a non-narcotic, which is how I
Does
got
it
it.
help?
It helps with my neck. Absolutely. You know what else it helps with? Anxiety.
Oh, really?
I am very social. I have no problem with talking to people. Whereas, you know, in a different, you know, case where I'm not taking the gabapentin, because it's an extremely it goes after the your central nervous system. So, you know, for those who are, you know, and
Or
it
is it
can give you,
fibromyalgia?
yes.
Is that like the nerve pain or whatever? So it would
That's
help
like
that.
pain. Yeah, that's like pain everywhere. You have aches and pains everywhere, from what I understand. I don't know a whole lot about that. Mine was because it's a really strong nerve blocker, but again, it is not a narcotic. Because I don't take well to narcotic pain medication. Not because I ever had a problem. I just never took them. I have a very low tolerance, and it hurts me. I mean, I black out. I have seizures. They're not good. Yeah, they're not good. So I get everything non-narcotic. But gabapentins you got to watch out for anybody who don't know. You know, once you take them, one of the side effects, because it attacks your central nervous system, you may start walking sideways a little bit, you know, lose your balance. Some people claim to, you know, feel like they're drunk, you know, or that like they got a buzz or something, which is really odd to me because they're not, you know, narcotics. But I think because it attacks the central nervous system so much, to block the pain, it helps. And like I said, a bonus is
There's always a bonus in mental health.
Yeah, I know, right? It alleviates my anxiety. Now, that may not be the case for everyone, but I have talked to a few people who have been on gabapentin, and it does the same for them. But I thought it was, getting back to what I was originally saying, I thought it was kind of odd that using, you know, something like cognitive behavioral therapy to help in the treatment of pain.
Mm-hmm.
That was the chronic pain. That was interesting to me, because a lot of times, you know, we think too much about the pain.
Well, that kind of helps rewire your brain.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I had read an analogy once, because obviously, you know, when you see a picture of a brain, you see all the grooves and everything.
Mhm.
So that basically helps you make new grooves, essentially, to deal with it.
Groovy.
I read that once. Who knows if it's true? You know, it was probably on Facebook or something. I
Oh,
don't
it's
know.
got to be true.
But
It's,
it stuck with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was one of those things, and I should probably look it up. But I think that's what CBT does, is it just helps make new routes for things.
Yeah, neural pathways or something like that. Yeah, new connections. You know, you can rewire your brain, and I am familiar. CBT does that. DBT does that. So I know what the way I react to pain is directly correlated with the mental illnesses I've been diagnosed with, that being PTSD, borderline personality disorder. I mentioned MDD. So I react almost, I get like uncontrollably angry sometimes at my pain. I do not deal with that very well. So now, actually, the more I'm talking about it, I can understand a little bit more how, because that when I get like that and I get manic or I get angry or depressed, that happens a lot. The older I get, sucks I can't do the things that I used to. Yes, it helps retrain the brain. I'm currently seeing somebody for DBT. Not really sure I like this therapist. At my first visit impression, not too sure. But yes, so that's now, like I said, now that I'm talking about it more, I can understand you if you retrain your brain to take and handle the pain a little bit differently. Versus getting depressed or getting angry, which is just going to intensify it. And it's a vicious circle. And, again, what came first, the pain or the, mental illness? I've heard more mental illness affecting physical body more than, because it does happen. My physical pain does. It can take me down in a bit of depression. I start thinking about my own mortality. Don't do that. That's horrible. That's a rabbit hole. It's hard to get out of.
Oh yeah.
And I find myself getting really tense.
Lots of intrusive thoughts.
Yes, exactly.
Like, what would happen if I went and drove over that guardrail right now?
Yeah.
I would be in a lot of pain.
Yeah. Well, if you still felt pain. Nick says there's a book out there titled "The Body Keeps Score." Yes, Dr. I can't remember his last name, Vanderkolk. I've been watching a lot of him. Yes, and
Nicole should come on the show.
Huh?
Nicole should come on the show one time. So Nicole, I know you're watching. You got to come on.
Yes, absolutely.
She
love to
she
talk
works
with her.
in psychology, so I think she would be a good person to have on.
Yes, absolutely. I've been wanting. I've actually emailed a few people in the field. Haven't heard anything back. Dr. Fox is he talks a lot about personality disorders, and then a couple other that's out there. But I would love to have her on. Yeah, that's right. There ain't no LOL. This is gonna happen. Yeah, it's So did the pain or the mental illness come first for you?
I think that's hard to explain because I had such a traumatic incident when I was young. So I don't know. And this is, I don't know if that affects the path I went down emotionally and mentally. I don't really think about it. So part of me, like Nicole had just mentioned, your body stores trauma. So I don't know if, because I was like 5 or 6, and so that could be stored and kind of put me on the perpetual road to mental illness. Or it could have been, like when I first started getting depressed, it's hard for me to say what came first. But I know, like, since I've hit my head, like, I've noticed the pain more. I had never really put the correlation of being depressed and having anxiety to physical ailments. So hitting my head made me learn a lot.
Not that we encourage everyone
That's
to do
not
that.
a good way to go about it.
It's not a good way to learn. Pick up a book. That might be less painful than anything.
Yeah, no, because it's also like affected like my speech, and like I was supposed to do cognitive behavioral therapy. I just, between like every other doctor and appointments I have to go to, I'm like, oh yeah, let's just add this other thing in. But I forgot where I was going with that.
Oh, I don't know. For me, with the question I asked, I'm not sure. I had a because when you're younger, for instance, you're 5, 6 years old, you don't really think about pain, nor does your parents. I mean, you're young, you're falling down. You could be always in pain, growing.
Well, look at kids. Like, if they fall and skin their knee, they don't cry until you make it a big deal.
Exactly.
And then the waterworks come on. So. Yeah.
I think all kids do that. I know I did that. So you really don't, recognize if there's really any abnormal pains at a young age. Especially, with parents. And, I as well, went through a pretty traumatic experience when I was 11. And it was probably about 4 years later was when I noticed the depression. And that's when self-harming played a role. And that's when that all started. I don't remember.
Which is interesting because when you self-harm, like you're not feeling it and you're doing painful things.
Very true.
So
Yeah. This was, self-induced, because I never had any real pain until, I guess on a chronic level until I got older, until I started working in all the construction jobs and doing all the hard labor. That is when, I started noticing pain. So was that a part of my childhood trauma that the body stored that later in, with the work that I was doing, maybe exasperated that? I don't know. I guess it's kind of hard for me to say as well. I guess, I would probably say maybe the mental illness, because I don't remember being in abnormal pain, at that age. I'm just, I'm a kid. So I would honestly have to go with that because of the short amount of time before the mental illness was apparent, and the traumatic experience. So I think really the mental illness kind of sped up after that happened. I came out and spoke with somebody, family members, when I was 13. So I'd have to say the depression came before the pain did. Now the pain, I don't know. I swear, I make a joke all the time. If I wasn't in pain when I woke up in the morning, I would think I died in my sleep. It's a way to, hey, I'm still alive. I don't have to cut because I'm in pain everywhere else. And no, but that's interesting. Yeah. The whole, cutting, I am causing pain because I hear that pain releases, endorphins and whatnot. I always felt okay after that.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
For anyone that is watching or listening and, you have thoughts of harming yourself, well, first of all, call or text 988. But if you just need like a quick thing, like flicking a rubber band or putting an ice cube, gives you like the same sensation. So you're not actually hurting yourself, but you're still getting what you need out of it. So just a little FYI.
Yes, absolutely. 988, and it is it's a really good service. It actually started me on the path of looking into therapist. They'll get you in contact. My experience, they get you in contact with any available help that you may need in your area. They'll point you in the right direction. So absolutely. Um, how much has your chronic pain affected your mental illness and vice versa? How much do you think one or the other has affected you over the years?
Um, I would say like lately, my physical health like is affecting um my mental health a lot more. Um, like I said, I have chronic back issues. I had an MRI done several years ago when I was in my 20s, and they had said that I already had arthritis in my spine. So I've noticed my back has just continuously gotten worse over the years. Um, and like, I know we did our episode on music, and music is like a huge help for me. So I love going to concerts. Um, and the last two concerts I went to, I realized that I can't even stand for a concert anymore. Like I had to leave halfway through both of them because I physically just could not stand anymore. I was in so much pain. Um, and then there's days where like it just hurts to walk. So it's like you just end up loafing on the couch or lying down, which in turn makes you more depressed because
Yeah,
you're not going outside, you're not really talking to anyone, you're not doing anything. Um, but then you start just eating and you're not doing anything and you're eating all this extra stuff. So then it's like I'm gaining weight and blah blah blah, all that stuff that makes it
yeah,
even worse. So
yeah.
that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's probably the exact same with myself. And let us know in the chat if you also deal with the same thing. Is it your mental health, do you think, that is causing your pain, or your pain maybe causing your depression or whatnot? But it's the same with me. As I mentioned, I do have some standalone physical pain, I'll put it that way. um, and that is quite impeding sometimes on my work, because it can be a little physical. But I ride a stand up, they call it an RC, a stand up uh, forklift type deal. And standing there the whole time, oh, it kills my lower back. It
Mm-hmm.
punishes my knees. Um, and it's like, you mean to tell me I can't? Because in my head, I'm not 52. In my head, I'm still 22. My body, I've seen the meme. My body, I think, died in the Civil War, but my head's still 22. Um, and it does. It depresses me. As I mentioned, I start thinking about my own mortality, and oh, this means if I hurt this bad, this means that I'm close to death, or that this is what happens the older you get. I just seen that from Nicole. Yes, she says when her mental health is not doing good, she's in a lot more pain physically. Yes, I notice the same, and I find it too that anxiety. Again, you may not be, all that self-aware that you're anxious, but your body will tell you. All of a sudden, your pain increases, and maybe not for a sufficient reason. Maybe not because you're doing anything more strenuous or doing anything less strenuous. Laying in bed all the time hurts the hell out of my back. Hips start
Yeah.
and
And then it gets to the point where, like, say you are sitting up or standing, you're in pain because you're not lying down because that's what you're used to. So it's just,
yeah, yeah. It really, it plays a it's a vicious cycle, as they
That's
say
why I
in
had to
one of
lean back. My back was hurting from just like sitting up.
I
So
noticed that,
I was
yeah.
like, oh my God.
I spin around like I'm doing now because my lower back's on fire. I can't sit in this chair very long, and I do it a lot. And I'll you know, I got some Aleve here that they're just Aleve, I promise. And you know, that kind of takes it off, so I can sit here and I can, you know, do things on waste time on Facebook. But so I got to get up, I got to stretch out, I got to lay down, and next thing you know, I end up falling asleep because I don't get a lot of sleep because the pain keeps me up, or I'm anxious and I'm thinking about, you know, things. I notice if I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about, okay, well, this has got to happen, or I'm worrying about this, or stressing out about that. For one, I can't sleep because I'm thinking too much. And two, my body starts aching, you know, and the more and more that I pay attention to it, it does seem to have, you know, there is a strong correlation between, yeah, I think we all have known that stress can really play a toll.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
But when you get down to, okay, yes, PTSD, depression, I don't think a lot of people really realize how much just being depressed can affect your physical health. They did there was one TED talk that I watched, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe her name was Nicole too, or something. I can't remember. Anyway, she was talking about a study called ACEs. It is, and I hope I get this right, Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or ACEs for short. And what it was basically they went through some of the most, you know, prevalent experiences that a child could go through, going by what trauma, the true definition of trauma is. It's not just, you know, uh, little things, you know. I mean, yeah, we all go through them little speed bumps, but it's a traumatic event. And it was, of course, of things like emotional, sexual, physical abuse, parents of mental illness, parents, you know, alcoholics. You know, you're pretty, you know, pretty much your normal stuff that you would think of as far as childhood trauma. And you get a point that there was, I want to say 10 of them. And, you know, okay, have you been through this? Yes. Point. And once they were done, if you scored like a 4 or more, or between 4 and 7 is what it was, you were 2.5 times more likely to have heart disease.
I read, you know, I did see that it's a lot of mental illnesses give you an increased chance of heart disease.
Yep. Stress does horrible things on the body. Anxiety does horrible things on the body. If you scored a 4 on this ACEs, or a 4, you were 12% more likely to have suicidal ideation. You know, just from childhood trauma. And a 7 tripled those numbers. So, you know, if you
Can
experience,
anybody take this test?
right? If yeah, because I actually did it myself and I got 5 on it. So may not want to self-diagnose too much.
Oh yeah, don't go down that rabbit hole.
And if you do, just throw it on TikTok. Millions of views. Yeah, it's crazy, you know, the increase, you know, lung cancer. Here's the weird thing. Lung cancer, and it even happening to people who do not engage in risky behavior like smoking or drinking. Non-smokers getting lung cancer.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, I had read some articles that talked about, like, how people picked up smoking because of their mental illness, which, you know, led them to be affected physically. So I was like ready to tell you, oh, I saw that. But then you were like on non-smokers. And I was like, no.
No, and that is, you know, one of the things that, we do by our own hand, picking up, you know, substance abuse throughout, you know, like due to, you know, our mental illness, trauma, whatever. Cigarettes, you know, just, you know, risky behavior, all that stuff, you know, that can be detrimental to your health in the long run. But it was propelled by, you know, the mental illness. I always said personally that it would not be hard for me to quit drinking if I could get a good, you know, start on my mental health. And, you know, I started taking medication last year. I haven't had a drop in it, you know, a little over a year and a half, because I don't have really the urges. I didn't go through any withdrawals. My mental health was getting, you know, better.
Yeah, it was funny you mentioned that, because like I didn't realize, you know, like I just kind of stopped drinking. Like I didn't put a date on it. Like I can't tell you my sober anniversary or anything like that. It's just like I stopped drinking. Like that, you know what I mean? Like I never thought about it the way that you're saying. Like when I started getting serious about taking care of my mental health, like I didn't want to have a drink anymore, you know?
Right. I didn't, you know, I guess
maybe because we were using that as our medications.
That's exactly,
so when we got
kind of
real help, we didn't need that crutch anymore.
Right. No, exactly. And I remember, you know, I had tried years ago to take and resolve some of my mental health issues with just medication. I was the first time they put me on 1,500 milligrams of lithium. I was on Trileptal. I was on I can't remember the one, anti-seizure, antipsychotic, Risperdal. I was on just an unbelievable amount. While I was having bad side effects, I was blacking out. I was, you know, having seizures. I was hallucinating. I got, from a neurological standpoint, I got double vision, which, yeah, is like crossing your eyes, but it's not. I couldn't walk from one end of the room to the other without holding on to things. And I said, fuck it, I'm self-medicating. Looking back, that probably wasn't the best route to take. There were other routes to take other than continuing with, you know, the uncomfortable amount of meds that I was on. Could have went another route, but I didn't. So you're exactly right. I self-medicated a lot. And as Dr. Marsha Lanahan, I guess, creator of DBT, has said that, yes, self-medicating like that, even though in the long run it is dangerous health-wise, it's effective in the short term. You can regulate your mood. You can bring your mood up. But yes, it will. My mood being up and staying that long shortened over time. The more I drank and the less I took care of my mental health, to the point where I could have 2 drinks and you say the wrong fucking thing and I'm exploding. You know, whereas before I could go the whole night, just have a great time and nothing bothered me.
Well, even it's on the behavioral health center, they specify that addressing mental health concerns plays a pivotal role in emotional wellness and maintaining overall physical health. So by seeking treatment and managing mental health issues, you can reduce your risk for physical health complications. And a lot of those, like an untreated mental illness, can result in chronic pain, gastrointestinal distress, and increased risk of chronic illnesses such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease. It was like a higher percentage for like several mental health illnesses increased your chance for a cardiovascular disease. And then also it weakens your immune system, which, like I noticed too, like I was feeling sick all the time, like just like run down. I feel nauseous. My stomach hurts. I'm like, why do I keep getting sick? Like, but I just chalk it up to, well, I have a low immune system now because of everything over the last 2 years.
Yeah. So many diseases and issues physically that could be avoided in the long run if we can just take care of your mental health. And of course, a lot of the things that will probably be suggested maybe from a therapist or a physician would be ways to improve your mental health would be a healthier diet. Changing your diet can do wonders. Your brain, like any other organ, needs the right nutrients to function properly. Sleep, as we mentioned tonight, can take and do wonders for your mental health as well as your physical health. And you may think that you're sleeping, but I know that I'm not getting that full REM complete dead sleep. I feel myself awake most of the night. And even though I'm just like, it's almost like a sleep paralysis or something.
Mm-hmm.
But these are things that can be done. Exercise. I know
going outside. Like
just
I hate when people are like, oh, just go outside, but it's like it really does make a difference.
It really does.
I still don't like being outside.
No.
But also, and I didn't know this until like the past year or so, a lot of antidepressants give you a higher chance of heat stroke. And I've noticed since I've been on these medications, like my threshold for heat is very low. Like if I'm outside on a hot day, I start feeling sick real quick.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, I did just come across something about that. Somebody had put a post on Facebook speaking of that certain medications, will make it harder, to deal with the heat. And this was back when it was just starting to get hot. Man, I thought this was a good discussion. A lot of things to be aware of. I guess my suggestion, if you're feeling a lot of physical pains, of course, go see your primary care physician at first, and just check that out. If you are somebody like us who has your own mental health issues that you're dealing with, that could in turn be part and maybe something that you should address if you're not already. There's lots of ways to take care of this. Hopefully it doesn't involve a bunch of pain medication, because as we talked, that can lead to a lot of substance abuse and problems later on down the road. My dogs are fighting in the background. The explosion of opioids, with pain, that a while back they were just handing them out like candy, created a big epidemic problem with opioids. So, of course you want to be careful, but the main thing you want to address the problem. And is it the depression causing the pain, or the pain causing the depression? One of life's great mysteries.
So take care of your mental health to take care of your physical health, and vice versa.
and vice versa. So I want to thank everyone for joining us here live, and thank you for watching. If you're watching at a later date, I don't think we have a topic as of yet, or do you have one you're surprising?
No.
No, we'll come up with something
Thank you,
really good.
Sean.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. Sean's a great guy. Did some work on a movie with him. Super nice guy.
I've talked to him so much, but I've never met him.
He's a good guy. So we don't have a topic
yet, but we have time.
But we do have time, so just stay tuned to the group. Please head over if you're. I don't know who all is watching on YouTube. It looks like a lot of Facebook users, but please hop over there to Dred the Stigma podcast on YouTube. Give us a subscribe, follow, hit the bell, whatever they do over there. And get notified of all the shows when they're coming. We are bi-weekly, so next Sunday, no. Following Sunday, yes. And we'll let you know here soon in the group what we're going to be talking about. Any last words, Lydia?
Just go outside and enjoy the sunshine this week. Even if you take 5-10 minutes to just go sit outside, it will help you. Yes. As much as it pains me to say that, it will help you. Absolutely. I won't tell you to smile. Yeah. But I will tell you to just go outside for a little bit.
You'll be amazed. Yeah. Don't die of a heat stroke.
Thank you, Nick. And
thank you.
Best believe I'm going to be hitting you up to come on.
Could be in 2 weeks.
Could be.
All right, you guys. We will see you next episode. I hope this was helpful in whatever way. I hope you got something from this. And until then, take care of yourself, guys.